We had what a weekend, right? Fantastic.
It was like, it was kind of funny because when you have like the Shabbat and then you have a day and then you have a Shabbat, it's like, like jumping in and especially if you work, or you're running companies from your house, it's like, and I realized and what it made me realize, Brenda, is I want to do it better next year. Like I want to plan better next year so that, hey, I'm taking the whole weekend off next year, or the whole next year. I think it'll be on a Tuesday. It's on a leap year, I don't think. It'll be on a Tuesday. So we'll have a couple days in between, but I just don't want it to be like that. I don't want that. I don't want my focus to be on all the preparation. I don't want my focus to be on this hurriedness of getting ready for something. I want it to be on the moment, right? Because I think we can get caught up in that, and I kind of did. So there's a little window into my life. So
hey, it's interesting because it's like every year is an opportunity, and then it happens, and then we reassess, and then we purpose to do it better the next year. I mean, that's like so beautiful. And I love that you said that, because I'll bet you 98%, 99.9% of all of us felt the same way. Like, boy, next year I just want to come into it with a little bit better. And I wasn't anticipating this or this. And so that's really lovely. And Ina Gul, you had some family standing there saying hello to us.
Yeah, so this is the woman that I live with and her daughter, and then I live with her husband and his parents.
All right, nice to meet you.
This is Leah and
That's
Odessa.
Charlie. That's Leah and Odessa?
Yes.
Awesome.
I love it.
Hello there.
You being shy, they're talking to you.
Hi there. Hi, Odessa.
The concept of over the computer is still a little strange to her.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sweet. Lovely to see you. That's so beautiful. Yeah. So, we just came out of this, I don't even know how to explain it. I was trying to explain to Charlie this morning. I am like still undone from this from this weekend. I know that the movement that we're feeling is moving into, like, the doors have shut, and the repentance, the atonement has happened. We've spent the time in repentance. We've spent that beautiful time with the Holy One yesterday. And now the doors to that have shut for the year. It's good. And now it's like the calves being released from the stall, but I'm still in the stall going, but I don't know if I'm ready to run and leap yet. I don't think that I finished everything. And that's like what you're saying, like, next year I want to do this better. This was the most unique time that I've ever had doing Yom Kippur personally. And if I was to judge it like on a scale of 1 to 10, it would have been an 11. But at the same time, it made me feel like I should have been able to pack more into every hour. Like I feel like I didn't have, like somehow I didn't get enough accomplished, or I didn't get, which is so funny because it's like, it's a day where you're not supposed to accomplish anything, right? Except prayer. and yet that's kind of how I felt. And so, man, that's what I was doing this morning, was trying to kind of get my bearings. I felt like, wow, I don't feel like I'm ready to come out from under the blanket yet. I don't feel like I'm ready to go outside and stand in the sunshine yet. And I know that that's only because I didn't prepare ahead of time properly, I think. But yeah, that's kind of where I landed. And so last night I was really asking the Holy One, what now? I know that this is a time of joy. We're going into the festivals. This is a time where we are excited and delighted and, running forward to to Sukkot. And it's exciting. And I have to get my feet under that. So isn't that odd? That's kind of like, what? I've never been here before. So it was really neat. But
I just want to say to that, just because I know there's going to be some people who are watching this, because I'll speak for myself. There's years that I would watch people talking about, oh, I had this like amazing Yom Kippur and I just wished I had one more minute. And I was like, what? The whole time I was thinking, can we eat yet? Like, I mean, there's some of you that are going to watch this that are like, well, I guess I'm just not there, because all I thought about was, could I eat? I was fine in the morning, and then I couldn't have my coffee, and and then I started getting a headache, and I was so focused on what I didn't have, and I kept looking at the clock. Is it time yet? Is the sun going? Do I see it? Oh, look, it's kind of going down. There's going to be a few of you, or a lot of you, who are there, and I just want to speak grace over you. Good for you. You did it. And you get to do it better next year, and you get to try again the next year. And it's so fun, because I know for me, I had an amazing morning. I got up, and because I had purpose, this was probably one of my best Yom Kippurs, because the other times I didn't plan well for it, or that's the bottom line. I didn't plan well for it. I didn't make it a priority. I didn't really understand why I needed to do it. And I'm a person that if I don't know why I'm going to do it, I'm not doing it. I have a slight rebel in me. So I'm like, the little rebel in me is like, you're not the boss of me. You can't I'm not going to do all this traditional stuff. I'm not going to, and then I sat back, and this year I really spent time investigating. I spent time reading the word. Like, what do you say, Father? And I spent some really great time in Isaiah 58. I spent some time in reading the word this time, and I had carved out the time so I was able to like just be quiet and sit and read. I watched some YouTube videos of some people doing Yom Kippur services. I was able to watch that. So it was kind of fun just exploring this new Yom Kippur thing that I had really not taken seriously, or I don't know how to explain it. I didn't understand. I didn't understand it. So I know there's the ones out there going, I didn't do all that stuff, and I didn't prepare, and I didn't make this big party fun, break the fast at the end of the day, and I didn't have a party the night before, and I didn't do all those things. Neither did I. We had French fries for dinner just before we started our fast. Neither one of us were really hungry, so I threw like French fries in the air fryer. I put special seasoning on them. Okay, that was like the big whoopity-doo. And then we went into our fast. So I feel like I just want to speak to that girl out there. In Drive-Thru Sue, or whatever we want to call her. But the girl out there who's like just trying to hold it together. It's like, I didn't have any of those experiences, and all I did was freak out about eating. All I want to say is, yay, you tried this year. And think about, if you are a parent or not a parent, you can imagine this. Some little kid bringing crazy toast. We say princess toast because it's that commercial where they bring the burnt toast with frosting and sprinkles all on the top, and it's burnt, and they're like, look, Mommy, I made you princess toast. And you're all, oh, thanks, honey. Oh, go do that. And then you throw it away really fast. You're not mad at your kid because they burnt the toast, or that they didn't make your favorite toast. Your heart is so happy that they thought of you, they tried, they did that's what your heart's excited about. And I promise you, that's how your Father feels today. That you even just set the side, you tried. That you even in your mind put your mind to it, and that was your version of princess toast. Yay you. Really, yay you.
That's great. I appreciate that. Yeah. And sorry, Charlie, sorry that my hair is disappearing. I do have my green screen on, and my lighting is not great. My light burned out, so we're going to have to deal with my hair disappearing. Sorry.
I think mine does too. So look, at my shoulder will disappear in the certain things too. Oh, yeah, I have a green sweater. I don't have a green screen connected today, but still, it's still
nice. It still looks great.
But still
looks great.
If I do this, it could there.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good, the way that you share that, Charlie. I'm blessed. I'm blessed that we all get to do this, where we're at and who we are, and look at it from what it is today and what it's going to be next year, and participate and anticipate. I really had a great experience with my husband. We actually, for the first time, the two of us were able to spend the entire day without um, outside influences or outside media influences. That was an amazing that was an amazing day. And he was able to blow the shofar. And it was so funny because when he was blowing the shofar last night, when it was ending, he, I'm thinking, which, like, okay, this is like total transparency. I'm thinking my neighbors are gonna kill me because he was blowing the shofar. I mean, he was being cuckoo crazy blowing the shofar. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my poor neighbors. And then I thought, well, maybe they'll ask us what was happening.
Oh
It'll be a good
yeah, right?
opportunity to talk to them, right? So stop worrying about it. And if they bang on the door, we'll say, sorry, it's all over. But Jeff had a great time being able to blow that. And we listened to a program last night. They were an hour ahead of us, so they actually were blowing their shofars an hour before us because they were East Coast time. But we got a chance to listen to that, and we hadn't done that before. We hadn't heard a Yom Kippur service before, when the sun goes down. So that was a neat experience too. So we got to experience all kinds of fun things.
Fun.
So yeah. So this week our Torah portion's kind of odd this week. Like we had a specific Torah portion for just the Yom Kippur, and then we have a Torah portion for the rest of the week. So I'll just be honest with you. I got a little bit sideways with what to be studying out and what to be reading.
I
But
love that. I'm glad you said that because I think not
Yeah.
only myself, but I think other people
Uh-huh.
are like, gosh, how do they remember everything? We don't.
Oh no.
No, we don't. So I want us to always be super real and transparent with you. We don't.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and I think that more than importantly, what a really great thing is that we all, like you said, we're all at different levels. So we're like, oops, I forgot this, or oops, I don't know how to do this. And I will mute that.
Thank you.
We're like, how do we do all the things? You just try.
Yeah.
You know what? We're
That's
just all
right.
get to step into this step by step. So
Yeah. So that brings up a really good point that I wanted to talk about today. We recently had someone asking us about, the holidays, about the high holy days, about the Shabbats, about festivals, and all of the days that are required for no work. And so she was asking, she was like, I'm feeling very, I'm feeling like I'm blowing it. Like I don't have the ability to take all these days off of work, and my boss won't just give them to me. And she tried, and she asked her boss, and he said no. So she was feeling condemned, as if she, was dishonoring God, and it was a horrible, like she didn't say these words, but I just kind of felt the feeling that I felt was that she was feeling judgment from God. And so I just wanted to kind of address that real quick. And since we have a lovely panel here today, I want you to all chime in and unmute yourselves when you want to say something. But what I was reminded of when this came up was that the requirement of the Holy One to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy it's an absolute. It's in the 10 words of empowerment because it's who we are, right? But later on, we're reading in the Torah, and it talks about what happens if your neighbor's ox falls into a ditch, and it's a Sabbath. Do you just leave it there because it's a Sabbath, and you can't dishonor the Sabbath by getting a truck or getting Back then, it wouldn't have been a truck. It would have been a cart.
It's a big
Was-
deal.
It would have
Huge.
been big.
I mean, we're like, oh,
Getting
whatever.
them-
We think we're equating it with a dog falling in a ditch. Oh, no, no, no,
Oh,
no.
no,
This
no,
is
no.
like imagine a
Tons or a ton.
bulldozer,
Yeah.
a bulldozer falls into the ditch and you're like, I don't have time to help you. I'm on my Sabbath. And you're like, we have to go rent it. How do we pull this out? It's going to take
Yeah.
70 men. I don't even know.
Right. So yeah, so modern times it would be like, oh, there goes my hair again. So modern times it would be, if your next door neighbor's van full of all of his business supplies for his business fell into a ditch on the side of the road. So you would have to get a tow truck, you'd have to hire a tow truck, you'd have to call an ambulance, you would have to be doing all these things. And guess what? You'd be late for Shabbat dinner. And the sun would go down and you'd still be doing it. Are you breaking the Sabbath law? Well, technically, yes, but what is the heart of what God's saying? He's saying that your neighbor and their livelihood and their property and the things that are allowing them to feed their family is much more important than not honoring the Sabbath. It's actually
Right.
honoring the Sabbath to do that. It's honoring the Sabbath to take care of your neighbor. It's honoring the Sabbath. And so there's lots of examples of that. So when I was praying about this last night, this is how I felt. The Sabbath is in your DNA. The Sabbath is in you. It's who you are, because the 10 words of empowerment said, this is who you are. You are one who honors the Sabbath. You honor your time with me. You honor the time that I have set aside for everything to be at shalom, to be at rest. This is who you are. So in that, the neighbor's ox is the example in the door. The neighbor's ox is in the ditch. It is going to take a whole lot. That's a lot more than just picking something up and dropping it off. Because what if that person was hurt or ill, or the ox had escaped and was in the ditch? And so you're gonna have to try to find out who that person is. There's a whole lot that goes into it, a whole lot of involvement.
Right.
And so it's not just a matter of, it's like, do you think that the Samaritan, that all the people that walked by on their way to temple, they left the person on the side of the road? Were they honoring the Sabbath? Technically, maybe technically, yes, but the heart of it, nope. But the Samaritan stopped what he was doing and put aside his own need and desire, his own agenda, and helped. And I think that that's kind of what we need to take onto ourselves. This is not license to not do the things that God is asking of you to do. This is the license for you to do the things that God is asking you to do with his heart towards his people, because it's not just about us individually, it's about us as a community. And so that was one of the little things that came to me. And then the other thing too is that this person tried their very best by contacting their job and trying to get those days off, and they were not allowed to. So what comes into play then? Well, one of two ways. You could just call in sick and lie, okay? Or you could go to work and honor your vow, because when you're an employee, you've made a vow to your employer. And so you have to honor that vow. And what does that look like? It might look like you need to find another job. It might look like you need to go to work on those days that your boss requires you to, and do it unto the Lord and ask the Lord for a way of escape from the vow or for a change of heart toward your boss. But at the same time, if you go to work and you're grumpy and you're angry and you are mad that you have to go to work, how is that spreading shalom into your environment? It's not, is it?
No.
So if you honor the covenant, that commitment, the vow that you made with your employer, and you go in your heart, you're carrying with you the Shabbat, the Sabbath, and you're asking the Holy One, I'm doing this because I made this commitment, but next time I take a job, I'm going to make sure that it's a job that may not put me in the same position again.
Yeah.
Or, Father, will you redeem this? I'm sorry that I'm not able to honor the Sabbath today. Will you redeem this? Will you allow the Sabbath that is within me to be made evident to the people around me and around about me? And let's see what that environment looks like when you walk in that.
That's
And
beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, I'm thinking about, because as a nurse, you know, you have to work all the time. And
yes.
so what it requires, I want to just speak grace over everyone. Let it go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Let it go. You're not sent into the pit of fire for all eternity because you weren't. Guess what you get to do next time? You get to think, how do I prepare next year? Which means you go to your boss and say, okay, now we have a year. These are the days. Here's my calendar, my religious holidays, because it is you are allowed to take religious holidays, and you can say, but I'll work Sunday and I'll work Christmas and I'll work Easter.
Right.
And my bosses were always thrilled, because that was the hardest things for them to fill. Because I'd say I'll fill those days but these are the days I have to have off. These are the days off all next year that I need my schedule worked around, or I need to plan the take vacation days for those days. And in advance, as opposed to 2 weeks ahead of time. And you're like, you know, before that's what I would do. And then I'd be so, upset because I couldn't get the time off because I had forgotten to make the plans, you know, ahead of time. And I get to do it better. You get to do it better next year. I get to do it better next year. It's like, how do I plan this better? And, you know, same thing. My husband had a doctor's appointment yesterday that we could not reschedule for like 90 days. And he didn't realize it had fallen on Yom Kippur. So he had to go to the VA hospital in Little Rock, go to Cray Cray Town. Thank goodness it was super early, and go in and had to have procedures done that were necessary, and then come back and then try to then come back into that Shabbat mode after you've been like, and it just showed me how important it is to be like, okay, we need to make sure go to your Google calendars, everyone, today.
Yeah.
In your phones, however you keep your stuff for the next year, and cost those days all off that you need to not be working. You're not doing your regular work, because there's still stuff you have to do. Like we still had to feed the dogs. I mean, and had to take care of dog duty, literally and figuratively. And we had to still do all the things. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes, aren't you grateful? Aren't you grateful that you go to the hospital and you have a nurse that's filled with the Spirit of God that's there on the Sabbath because you're sick and you need somebody to be there with you?
Oh, that's
to
beautiful.
Bring you a little bit of shalom, to bring you a little bit of the Sabbath into your sphere. Because this is the thing. He is in you. You are filled with the presence of God. And wherever you are, that's what you have the opportunity to exude from yourself. Remember, we talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Having the presence of Messiah, having the fragrance of Messiah everywhere that we go. And so, Charlie, thank you so much, because that's exactly, it's grace, 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 grace. You know, we get so caught up in the duty of things that we forget what is the heart behind that. It's meeting with the Holy One. It's honoring his times and his timetable, his schedule, his calendar. That's what we're honoring. And in those times, when we are not able to, then how we walk that out is just as important. And I love that you said that. Grab your calendars this year, plan for the year ahead. I'd like to tell you a little story about this exact thing, which is why I'm so passionate about this. Because my husband was out of work and I was the only one working and bringing in income. And I took the first job that I could get. I grabbed it. I did not plan ahead. I didn't like think, oh my gosh, this was in retail, so they're going to need me on Saturdays and Sundays. So when I got to the hiring phase, they said, we need you to work on Saturdays and Sundays. That's required of all our people. And so I just sat there and I was like, blink, blink, blink. I'm like, oh no. I said, well, is there any way that we could, make an opportunity for me to not work on Saturdays? And they said, no, you can't do that. But after you get started, then we'll revisit it. So I got started with the job, and then I think it was a month after, I went into personnel and I explained to them what happened. And when I got hired, that those were the dates that I wasn't available. I wasn't available on Friday nights to Saturdays, but I could work Saturday evenings and I could work every Sunday. So he sat down with me and we went through the schedule, and what he asked of me was twice a year if I would work on Saturdays, twice a year, to do inventory. And it was like a 12-hour shift. And it would break into, I would be starting Friday evening I think at 11 o'clock, and I'd be working into Saturday. And it was twice a year, but that was the compromise, but I didn't have to work a single Saturday. And in exchange for that, I said I would work every single Sunday for the entire year, and I would work every holiday. And they allowed me to do that. Isn't that crazy? Because that's favor, and it wasn't anything that I did, just God. But the thing was that I went in with an attitude of, look, I made this commitment with you, and this is what I have. Now, you're not always going to have a boss that's going to be like that. I'm just very thankful that I did. But those two Saturdays that I had to work the long shifts, I purposed on those Saturdays to do it with not a grumbling heart, not complaining. What kind of a witness would that be to the people that I'm with? Like, well, this is my Shabbat and I shouldn't have to be here. And would that have really been able to bring any life? Or, and I'm not saying that I did everything perfect, because I'll tell you what, I didn't. But it was a real lesson for me to honor the Holy One first. And that meant that when I didn't get things done my way, that I wasn't grumbling and complaining and, and infecting my whole atmosphere of my work environment. And so it made a big impact on me. And I'm not saying that to say that I did a really great job. I'm saying that to say how great is God, that he really does. I still had to work those two Saturdays. And I still had to work every single Sunday. I still had to work every single holiday. There was a cost. But how good was God that he actually allowed that to happen, and that my boss was able to make those arrangements. The head of personnel actually was able to make those arrangements for me. Anyway, I'm just saying that, boy, when we petition that before the Lord, he understands. He's right there in the middle of it. It's not that he doesn't know what's going on. He knows that. So if your boss is requiring you to still work on the Sabbaths or still work on the holidays or whatever that is, you just present that to him, and you just keep being honorable in your commitments that you've made, and trust him that he'll either make a way of escape for you by another position, another job, or another schedule, or that in the midst of that, until you are able to be back the way that you want it to be, that he will give you the grace to be the Shabbat in you, to allow that to come out of you and be part of your environment, wherever you are and however you're doing it. Thoughts? Any stories?
I'm sorry, I put a note to you, Brenda. I had to hop away because we're in a fifth wheel and my husband took the stabilizers off, and we're getting ready to take him. He has a procedure today we have to get to. He's going in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's like I'm on a boat rocking, and I started getting seasick. So I had to go take Dramamine, because I was like, so I'm super get car sick and seasick. So apologize if I hop out.
Nope, that's fine.
I'm like in the back of the boat right now praying for Jesus to stand up and calm the waters,
Oh, life in a little what do you call it? Mini house, small house,
Life on the tiny home on wheels.
tiny
Yes.
home. It was something like that. Uh, Ainagul, did you have something?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I spent most of my summers working landscape and then like working a job during the day and then working my own jobs in the evenings. And so it was really easy for me to keep Shabbat then, but then during the school year, I'm doing full-time classes and work, and it was really, really hard, especially because usually every school year I ended up finding a different job during the school year to ask for Sabbath off. And so it was cool because I usually had the evenings off, so I could spend that as a time of like Sabbath. And then I just had to like change my heart attitude about having to go into work and like really trying to be a blessing to my coworkers and a
Oh, good
blessing to my husband.
job. Yes.
So that was something I wrestled with a lot in college because it just kind of was the situation that I was in.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And did you have anything that happened to you in that being where you were? So what I want to hear is, what stories do you have to tell, or think about them, being where you were and how the Holy One arranged things? You know, did you meet some neat people? Were you able to share some things? Where, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
so I met one person who was a Messianic Jew. He was like, I think you're a Messianic Jew, and I was like, I don't really know. I'm a Christian. I don't know. But then it was
What
also
am
really
I?
right? Because I don't really know. But then I also just made a lot of good friends with coworkers. Like I think that, especially because on Saturdays were our busiest days, and I usually work 10-hour shifts, and it was sports season, so there's just people in and out, and I was just like, I'm gonna keep a positive attitude no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted I am.
Man.
But it was also cool because like during the football game session, it kind of gets really slow and you just hang out with coworkers, and they would all be grumbling and complaining, and I'm like, I'm not participating in that. And
Good for
one of the
you.
things that they teach you in the military is that attitude is contagious. And so that attitude was somewhat contagious. And I remember the assistant store manager was like, you bring a really good environment on our Saturdays. And I was like, thanks. But yeah, other than that, I don't know.
Oh, that's beautiful. No, that's perfect. You brought Shabbat with you.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
brought
and
the
that was
presence
really
of
my
God.
goal.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Oh, what a great testimony. I love that. Anyone else? Anyone else want to chat about this? No? Okay. Good deal.
Hey Brenda, what happens
yeah.
what happens when your home isn't honoring Shabbat and you're trying to have Shabbat and everyone is crazy and everyone is, doing all the things
Yeah.
I remember seasons when, my husband would be, I'm trying, you're trying to Shabbat, which is so funny. Like, I'm so trying to Shabbat with this face.
Yeah.
I'm so trying to Shabbat. And he wants to talk about bills, and he wants to talk about how we're going to plan for our retirement and how he's wanting to talk about all the things that were all legitimate things we needed to discuss.
Absolutely.
And they're all legitimate
Right.
things. And then it wouldn't be out of maliciousness, because I'd be like, I'm trying to Shabbat, but I didn't say it that nicely. And he'd be like, oh, I forgot, I'm sorry. And and now those things still can happen, but my heart has changed to be like, hey, if this is urgent, I'm so happy to do this. Like, we can sit and do this, because honoring him is
Absolutely.
is part of who I am, right? Because
Yes.
that we're in alignment and together. And what happens is the Holy Spirit gets to tell a lot of the stuff I'm being all meticulous or being so strict about isn't even what God's asked me to do. So this is part of him. He uses my husband is so wise in this area, and his strength in this area to help temper my tendency to maybe switch over to a religious spirit in things because I'm so used to being in a religion and having things. I like boundaries and tell me the black and white. And what do I need to do? I was in the military. What do I need to do? What's the protocols? Let me look up the policy. What's the regulation? This is how we do it. Done. And he's really, even though my husband was in the Army, you know, he still helps temper me in being like, does the Bible say that? Or is that something you've just adopted from something? Like, where'd you get that? And so he's really good at keeping me balanced in this area, for sure. I don't know what my point of that was just that, you know, you have to just be mindful that not everybody in your home might be, you know, you're trying to like set up this environment and not everyone's playing with your picket fence yard. And you're like, man, don't get mad about it. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even the fact that you have to work outside the home. Sometimes the work is going on in your home. So how do you deal with that, right? So these Tuesday Talks are all really about being an Isha, being a woman who is filled with the Spirit of God in your home. And how are you affecting your home? How are you walking out Torah in your home? That's what these Tuesdays Talks are about. And that's what this topic is about. How are we walking this out in our home? Charlie, I love that. You said it perfectly. I honored my husband. I honored my husband because that is the greater mitzvah. That is the greater good, is to honor my husband. And in doing that, did you hear her verbiage? She said, is this something that's really urgent? Because let's take care of it right now if it is. Even knowing that in her mind, her boundaries were saying no work, no bills, no, you know, nothing to do with the regular mundane. And yet she was honoring her husband. And I love that. And so this is what we get to do as Ishas. We get to walk out the Torah in real life. This is application time. This is walking out the Sabbath when you're not even allowed to have an environment maybe in your home. You know, you might have things happening in your home that are work related, or, you know, but Charlie gave us a really great clue there. How do you honor the ones who are connected to you? If you're married, your husband. If you're living at home with your parents, how do you honor them and still honor the Sabbath? Well, it's in you, right? So wherever you go, that's what you need to focus on. And that's what you bring to the Holy One. Father, how do I honor the Sabbath in the midst of this? My husband is insisting that we all do yard work today. How do I honor the Sabbath in the midst of this? Well, let's play the scenario. You could get in a big, huge argument, scream and fight, run in the bedroom, slam the door, upset the kids.
I'm trying to pray.
I know, exactly. Oh, Lord. And can I just say, you guys aren't going to believe this. I did that for years. That's why God kept me in seclusion for 15 years. Seriously. I did that for years. My poor husband, I don't know how he even stayed with me. He wasn't on the same page that, thank God.
Thank
he wasn't
God.
on the same page that I was.
Right? Thank God.
Lord, thank you. And so the conflicts, every Shabbat was a conflict, every Shabbat, until Shabbat got inside of me.
Yes.
Because I was trying to do it all out here. I was trying to make it all beautiful, perfect, everything. And my kids would have food fights, and it would freak me out because I'm like, no, now I have to clean. I have to leave those. Like food fights with things that had food coloring. So let's just go there.
Now I have to work. You've made me work. Now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
it wasn't the food fight. It was the work the food fight caused. So yeah.
On the drapes, on the wall, And so what was happening was it just takes me a lot longer to get things. That's why people need to really consider whether or not they want me to be their friend, because it takes me a long time to get things. But once I get them, that's it. I got them. I really do. But it takes me a long time to get there. So it took me a long time to understand that the legalistic, cut and dry was not working for my family, my husband, or my children. And that all I was doing was bringing death to my home. I was bringing arguments and tension and frustration. That's what I was bringing to my home. Yes, I baked challah. Yes, I lit the candles. Yes, I didn't do any housework, and my kids didn't have to make their beds, which they loved. They didn't have to clean their rooms or make their beds. Yes, I did those things, but was I bringing the heart of Shabbat into my home? Not for a long time. And when I changed as the Isha in my home, and we're all Ishas, whether we're married or not, we're all Ishas. And wherever you are is your home, and whoever you're with, that's your family. And I was not bringing the beauty of all of that into my home. And when that revelation flowed over me, my whole world changed. My whole world changed. And I look back now and I think, oh man, I wish I would have done it. No, you know what? I know that he met me right where I was, and he met me because I am a stubborn person. And he met me and he trained me and he taught me through all of those hardships. And now it is a different altogether. It's completely different. And if my Shabbat gets interrupted, I am reminded of that religious person that I used to be and how I would, and I go instantly into, thank you, Father. What do you have for me today? How do I honor you? How do I honor the people around me? How do I honor my family? How do I honor this thing that's happening? When your pipes break and the plumbers are in your house on Shabbat, that's not my plan. Dirty boots on the carpet. Stinky men. No, it's not my plan. But sometimes that happens. So how do we do that? Well, as Ishas, that's what we get to do. We get to walk out the reality of what his word is to us.
Yes.
And do we plan better? Yes. Do we make other arrangements for the future? Yes, of course, because
Yes.
we're growing constantly. We're growing, we're maturing. But we also need to be in the moment, present in this moment, and not wish away our time that we have with the Holy One.
Absolutely.
So
every time you say Isha, I have this thing that we're gonna have moments where we're gonna have this thing. We're gonna say Isha's in the house. Everyone's gonna go hey, so everyone know hey is at the end of Isha. It makes us like Isha.
It's a little Hebrew
humor.
humor.
There's a hey at the end of the word, and that's what makes us Ishas. So Isha in the house.
Right.
Hey,
right. I love that. We need a T-shirt, Charlie. Put it on the list.
I know. I'm excited because I do know there'll be some time when we're all together, even online. Every time now, but Isha's in the house. I want y'all to go hey. So
and
because you get to bring this beautiful revelation into your home. You get to be, we've grown up, I know growing up in a Pentecostal church and growing up with so many women crying and being mad that their husbands are not being the spiritual leader they're supposed to be, and realizing that I inherited that lie. It was all his job. I inherited that lie, and it was my job to open the windows. And even like yesterday during Yom Kippur, my husband came back stressed out from having to go to this procedure. He had to go, and of course I couldn't go with him because it was a hospital. But what I got to do is choose. How do I open the window and let the hay in? How do I be at Isha? How do I open the window? I could be like, I can't you see I'm trying to pray and read here? I'm like, if you saw the picture, I'm in my little recliner. You can look at maybe my stories from yesterday if they're still up. I have right along this beautiful, it looks like a river to me, but they say it's a creek. And I'm listening to the waters. Oh, the dogs are being calm, which is not normal. Everything's all in Xanadu. I'm in my nirvana. And then what happens? Then, my husband had to come home, and he was stressed out from the traffic and the VA hospital and the blah, blah, blah. And I had a choice to
Right.
make. I could be like old religious Charlie and be like, you just messed up everything. Or I could pull his chair up and be like, how do I breathe fresh air into this? How do I
Yes.
breathe life into this moment? And I got
Yes.
to choose, and it was like, that's my job, and it's his job. Then when I'm like that, he does the same thing for me, but he does it differently, right? That's how we counterbalance each other. But you get to do that in every environment you're in.
Yes.
You get to, it doesn't have to be a husband, it could be friends, it could be your
Right.
roommates, it could be whatever.
Right.
But you get to say, okay, this is not
Yeah.
what we wanted. There's
That's right.
spaghetti everywhere, and I wanted a clean house, or
Yeah.
I wanted to be quiet and read. I had reading
Uh-huh.
time, and now all of a sudden kids they all decided to have a play date today in the house that I'm staying in, and there's kids screaming everywhere. This is not my idea
Right.
of quiet. You
Right.
get to choose. How do I open the window? How do I let the
Yeah.
fresh air come in? How do I bring, I love what you said, Brenda. How do I bring Shabbat to this home? How do I bring shalom
Yes.
to this space?
Right.
Because
So
we
what?
are the Shabbat. He made
Right.
it for us. That's who we are. We get to step into it with our shalom.
And I love that, Charlie, because what is shalom? Shalom is that blanket that we wrap around. Shalom is that it is not absence of conflict. It's not absence of chaos. It is not absence of war. It is that place of rest in the midst of it all, where
Amen.
we commune with the Holy One and we say, Father, what do you have me? What is it that I get to do? How do I express your love right now in the midst of all of that? That's what we get to do. And Charlie, what you just said, that is the perfect image, because what you did was you wrapped that blanket of shalom around your husband, and he needed that. Listen, he was out in the world. He was out there. He was under stressful conditions. He was in stressful environments. He was having to do things that were difficult. He was in pain. All of these things were happening to him, and he came home, and what did he need? He needed that blanket of shalom to be wrapped around him.
Yes.
And we get to do that, not just for husbands or for children, but for whoever we're with. Jennifer, you're with your mom. You live with your mom right now. Are you still living with your mom? Yes. No. Yes. Okay. So you get to do that with your mom. You get to wrap that blanket around her, even if she doesn't want you to, right? Because that is who you are. You are Isha. And this is the practicality of walking out the Torah in our lives on a daily basis. It's not theory, guys. And religion makes it theory. That's why people argue in the parking lots and scream and fuss and speed on the freeway and are mean to their waitresses after services, because it's theory. This is reality. This is true. If the Holy One has the words here for us, it's because he wants us to live them and walk them out. This is what we get to do. This is the honor and the privilege of being Isha. And we get to do this wherever we are. And sometimes, like with me, and I'll just throw myself on the flames here, I didn't do that for so long. I did the things technically, I did the things religiously. I checked off those boxes, but there was no shalom. There was, I'm sure there were moments of shalom, but in the overall picture, that's not what I was bringing to the table. What I was bringing to the table was, you know, rules and regulations, not life. And so that's what we want to be doing right now is digging in deep in our weekly Torah portions, in our weekly readings, digging in deep and finding out where does this apply to me and how do I walk this out? Yesterday we were reading the story of Jonah. I don't know if any of you got a chance to read the story of Jonah. But the story of Jonah is all about redemption. It's about Jonah fighting with the Holy One and running away from the Holy One, telling him, I want you to go to these people. And he's like, these people? Are you kidding me? These are the enemies of Israel. These are the ones you're killing, our people. I can't go to them. And the Holy One saying, you need to go to these people. And Jonah taking off, going the opposite direction. And then the whole thing, I mean, it's so symbolic. I'd love to get into this sometime. The whole thing with 3 days in the belly of the whale, death, burial, resurrection. I mean, really? And then him going to Nineveh and then speaking forth the word. And what happened? 120,000 people repented and fell on their faces before God. That was not what he was expecting. And then later on in the story, he's a little resentful. Why? Because I think that maybe he had the clue that their repentance wouldn't last. Maybe he had a vision about the Holocaust. Maybe he had a vision about 400 years of Egyptian enslavement. Maybe he had a vision of how things are now. And he thought, oh, I don't want that. You know, we don't know. We don't know what it was, but there was a reason. But the thing is that he walked it out. He spoke the truth, and it is God's responsibility. Charlie, you and I just had this conversation. It is God's responsibility for the outcome. It is God's responsibility. What we have to learn is that we have ears to hear. We just had ha'azinu, ears to hear what he's saying to us. That's what the Torah portions are speaking life to us. Have ears to hear what he's saying, and walk it out, regardless of what you know the outcome will be, regardless if you know that person is not going to last or stay, or they're going to turn away, or they're going to be the greatest, sword in the side of the children of Israel for all time. God can handle that. Just do what he's telling you to do right now and watch what happens. Because how many people came out of that were generations that were joined to the children of Israel for all time from him going to Nineveh. Exactly. So here we go. That's what he's after. So as Ishas, that's what we do. We take the Torah portion each week. We apply it to ourselves, not in theory, but we're walking it out. And even if we don't know it, read a psalm. Rejoice in the Lord always. There you go.